Hey everyone, my name is Poisonblade and finally after a week-long absence I'm back, and today I'm going to be building a wizard's tower, because why not? And also we're back in Valhalla and this wizard's tower is also going to function as a Red Panda habitat. So with that being said, let's get straight into today's build. So to just quickly explain my week-long absence for anyone who hasn't been in the loop on that, basically I had PC problems that I caused myself because I'm just going to be brutally honest here. I envision myself to be someone who somewhat knows how to build up their PC, but in reality I'm a doofus and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm just messing around. I bought a new CPU, didn't think to check if it was compatible with my motherboard, and then when the CPU didn't work, I went to professional because again, I'm a doofus surrounding building a PC, but I acknowledged that pretty quickly. So they figured out, oh, motherboard isn't compatible, so I needed a new motherboard, and then they found out that the CPU that I bought was actually broken, so I had to get a new CPU as well. So yeah, it was a big drama, but I can give you just this quick piece of advice. Don't buy second-hand CPUs, or just make sure that they work. I didn't buy the CPU from a random person on the internet. It was through a retailer or through a shop where they did sort of guarantee me that it would work, and now that it doesn't work, I do get a refund. But yeah, be extra careful surrounding second-hand things, even if you think it's like a steal, because it's like half the price that it originally was, but now I know why. So I learned my lesson. Anyways, so yeah, that explains the week-long absence, because first I had to get a new motherboard, try to install it myself. Again, big doofus surrounding building my own PC, but I try. Then I had sent it to a professional to do that, and they found out the CPU wasn't compatible, and then they found out the CPU was broken, and then I had to get a new CPU, so I had to wait for the new CPU to arrive. And now I can build again. And now to go into the actual build. But anyways, so I have no idea why I thought of building a wizard's tower. Like, sometimes I really have no clue where the idea starts and how it really comes to be, but I just wanted to build a wizard's tower. So we are in Valhalla, which was a zoo that I used for streams probably almost half a year ago, at least 3 months. So with that being said, it's going to be kind of a shuffle in the channel right now, because Beaver's Dam is going into the vault and Valhalla is coming out of the vault. With that being said, or to explain it, basically the vault is, for me, the place where there are the projects that I still want to continue, but just right now don't have the inspiration for, so they are sort of, they are saved, but I'm not going to be currently working on them. So yeah, Beaver's Dam is going into the vault, but Valhalla is coming out, and I have a lot of ideas for Valhalla. And to quickly explain Valhalla, it's basically a Norse-inspired zoo, but I'm also going to add more Arthurian and Celtic legends in this zoo, because I want to, and you guys can't stop me. I mean, I built this tower basically with the idea of oh, this is Merlin's tower, because I think that Merlin is one of the most known wizards, or wizardy figures. Well, besides Harry Potter, but I'm not going to. But yeah, I have a lot of ideas actually for Halloween, which is actually surprising for me, because where I live, and I don't know if this is true for the rest of Netherlands, if there's any Dutch people in the comments, please do say what you think about this, but I have never celebrated Halloween. I have never, I've of course seen how they usually celebrate it in parts of the US and such, but just anywhere in the tiny village that I grew up in, we never really celebrated Halloween. It was just, yeah, it's there, but we don't really do much with it. So it was surprising for me to have so many ideas surrounding Halloween themed builds, basically scary and spooky builds. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And my Discord immediately said yeah, Halloween is still a month to go. And I quickly just said, yeah, my brain doesn't work like that. If my brain wants to build something, it's going to be built. So yeah, next month is going to be fun, because I'm sort of having a few real or like scary builds, but then also just a few funny builds in my head. So yeah, that's going to be fun next month. But anyway, I also want to quickly explain why Red Pandas. Well, as you can see, the Wizard's Tower has a lot of verticality, so I wanted a climbing animal, but I didn't want a monkey, because whenever I think of wizards, I just don't think of monkeys. I think of, well, also unicorns, but just, animals that look a little bit more mystical and not just a monkey. So then I thought, lemurs, no. Japanese macaques, still monkey, but they look a little bit funky because they are completely white. But I didn't want to do that. And then I went to the pandas. And here I'm going to reveal something, but I've never built anything for a giant panda. Like for me, a giant panda just doesn't really do anything for me. It's not that I don't like the animal, but it's just whenever I think of like, oh, for what animal should I build this habitat? A giant panda just never comes through. Do you guys have any of those animals where it's just like, yeah, it's in game and it's a nice animal, but for some reason I just never see myself building anything for them? And again, it's not because I dislike the animal, like I want to build for the giant panda, but it's just whenever I think of building something, I just never really think of giant pandas. But I do think of red pandas, and I already just know that Kane is like giving me that side glare in the comments of like, another red panda habitat, you build one of those like almost every 2 months. But it was really the only animal that sort of fits in here with like the verticality and such, and possibilities to make this a really like climbing heavy habitat. And yeah, all the other animals just didn't really fit in. Like if we get new animals or new climbing animals with a future DLC, which are a little bit probably European. Like if we get a European DLC, which I don't know for sure, I have no idea what like the next DLC is going to be, but I hope it's going to be European. But if we get like a European climbing animal, I will probably swap out the red pandas for that animal. But yeah, I really just hope that the next DLC is going to be like European, or actually North American can also work, because the next DLC is probably going to come out in like end of fall, or surrounding Christmas times, because just business wise that's a good thing, because then you have like a bit of hype surrounding a very gift giving heavy season. So you anything like surrounding Christmas or Black Friday or any of those like holidays, you will probably see an increase in sales because people buy gifts around that time. So it's probably just a good business deal to make a DLC around that time. So hope for European, hope for North American. I really don't care which one of those two it is. I just want another climbing animal that's not a monkey. And of course a lot of filler animals. And with filler animals I mean like the animals that you see in zoos but you don't really go to the zoo for, especially for like that animal. Like you don't really go to a zoo for an otter or a beaver. Yes, I brought it back to beavers because I want beavers. But anyway, so back to the actual builds. So this could actually already be considered a little bit of a Halloween build because it's a wizard's tower, and I built it with like Merlin in mind, because again, like Merlin is like the sort of quintessential wizardy figure. So I built it with that in mind, or with him in mind. But I also then had to think, alright, how am I going to make this into a habitat? Actually, like I want to quickly point out, like SNWolf recently released a video of like how to stay playing Planet Zoo, and he's pointed out that like the animals are a little bit second thing, or like second fiddle to the actual build. Which is kind of true. I mean, you can see that here. Like the giant or the red pandas are really just a minuscule thing in the entire build. So yeah, that's true. And I think I also, yeah, I think I talked about that when I pointed out my issues with Plan Zoo, that the animals aren't really the main focus of the game, even though it's planned to. But it's still sometimes interesting to think like, all right, I'm building this. How can I make this, work with animals? And that's actually the biggest issue with this habitat, because that small little side tower or pavilion, floating pavilion, it's not going to be floating actually, but just now it's floating. Yeah, I wanted to make it that there's like toys in the actual like floor, like the actual floor of that or the pavilion. But then I wanted to open up the roof so that the red pandas would sleep in the roof and then would come down to, have their toys and then go further down the tower and go to the actual like ground floor of the tower or ground floor of the habitat for like their food and such, because you can place toys pretty much anywhere as long as there's no like food involved, because the animals have to be able to reach them, but keepers don't have to actually reach just toys. Like if it's food related, they have to reach them, otherwise they won't work. But let's say the scent marker, it's literally one of the only toys that I really remember. And the wind chimes, that's also one that I remember. But you can pretty much place those anywhere. As long as the animals can reach them, then it will work. But here's the thing, it says that the animals can reach them, but they don't actually go up there. Probably because it's a little bit too long of a way up, because they also see, I think, the climbing as like enrichment for themselves. So they literally go halfway up the tower, and I did make it so that the red pandas would like circle around the tower to go up. But it might be a little bit too long, because, yeah, the red pandas again go halfway up the tower and go down. Like they don't even sleep in that area that is in the roof of that right now floating part of the tower. But I probably need to just make the route to go up shorter so that they don't fulfill like their complete enrichment needs before they get up. So that's also a thing I need to think about. Yeah, they don't go up, but they can go up. And I'm probably going to put this tower on the workshop, even though it's 6,000 pieces, because here is the thing with the African mud brick pillar. They are really usable for round things. I think I've said this a million times, but most of this tower doesn't, well, besides the mud brick pillar, doesn't actually have any grid pieces. All of it is completely custom built, which might be where the 6,000 pieces comes in. But here comes the sort of realistic aspect, because, I mean, whenever I build a building, like, I want to go pure fancy, but then just that urban design slash slight architecture side of me comes in, and I'm just thinking, yeah, if this building was somewhere in real life, it would just topple. Like, the bridge with the floating pavilion would just A, break off of the main tower, or B, which is the worst case, it would take the tower with it when it comes down. Because just think of it like this: put a stick in the sand and attach something heavy to one side, the stick is going to fall, or the thing that you attach is going to break off the main stick. So yeah, I just immediately thought, alright, how am I going to make this somewhat more realistic? Because I don't want it to make it like, oh, magic is holding this thing up. Like, do you think that, let's say, Merlin would really just constantly use his magic to keep his home up? Like, he has better things to do, so his home is like somewhat realistic, so that it doesn't topple over unless, well, it could still break, but that's with every build. But I quickly also need to say that this build, because of the week-long absence, actually has taken 2 weeks. Well, 2 weeks, it has taken a little bit shorter, because for most of the time I didn't have access to my PC. Yeah, it's fun to see what I could do. And I just really like the Wizard's Tower. I think that's why I sort of became slightly disenchanted, as it were, with like Beaver's Dam. But I know that like for me, like what I want to build is usually like fancy, historical and such. Beaver's Dam was a little bit too realistic for now. So maybe when Beaver's Dam comes out of the vault, then I will probably go into it with more enthusiasm. But hey, until then, if I'm correct, Yura and Zoofluencer also have like a project with like a Dutch shoe. So if you want a Dutch shoe, check over or go over to their channels because they're, I think, much further along with their project. But yeah, I'm going to be back building some more fancy and historical buildings. And I should also, so like with the next stream, which, yeah, the streaming schedule has been a mess, but then my PC has been a mess. But I should be streaming Isla Pacifica actually this coming Friday. Yeah, it's fun times all around, and I really want to build those Halloween builds. And I know that it's too early yet, and I also, like, again, I don't celebrate Halloween myself, but for some reason when you don't have access to your PC or you can't build, all the ideas just start flooding in, and then for like the first day or so, they were like somewhat realistic ideas. They were somewhat like, well, this Wizard's Tower. Well, actually the Wizard's Tower was built a little bit beforehand, but I got more and more ideas when I lost my PC. But after a bit, you sort of, well, lose track and the ridiculous ideas come in. One of those I'm definitely going to build, and there's, again, this is the same thing with like, with basically any event, which, well, I would consider like the release of the Australia pack and event and such. I always have like a main build that I want to build for the Australia pack. That was like the Koala and Echidna House. And then I have like side builds that I want to build that are somewhat more ridiculous. So yeah, in the end, well, the tower worked, so that's good. But I definitely have some ridiculous idea in mind, and I just want to build them, and you guys can't stop me. Even though the Discord said that it's a little bit too early, but I'm a squirrel. You can't contain me. You can't contain the squirrelness. Basically, what I want to say is, I did not realize how dependent I am or have become on my PC for like entertainment and relaxation and such. Because, yeah, I use my PC for so many things, like to get references, to get ideas, to do some work, and of course college has started, so yeah, well, college is a little bit weird because most of it is online now, so it's a little bit of a weird situation, but I was really weirdly struggling without my PC. And this is coming from the person who doesn't really use their phone a lot. Like, I really dislike typing on my phone. Even though my generation is like supposed to be like the phone freaks, I really dislike using my phone. And also, this is going to make me sound extremely weird. I much rather call someone than text someone. Don't know why, but if I really want to, like, talk with someone, I much rather call someone. So yeah, this is probably going to put me in the box of like, you're insane and what's wrong with you? Because I think most people would rather text someone than call someone, because, well, I do go through the thing of like, what do I say? How do I say this? Like, before you actually call someone, then you just go through that spiel of like, alright, what can I say? Who is the person I'm going to be talking to? Going through all the scenarios. So maybe that makes it a little bit more normal, but yes, I'm the person to call you before I text you. Well, I text you most of the time to see if you're available to be called. I think that's just proper to do, to, not call someone just randomly. Yeah, I'm strange, but giant or Red Panda and a Red Panda babe. Look at that on the screen. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video, so hope you enjoyed it. I will be back hopefully Sunday, and of course streaming on Friday, unless my PC breaks, because that has a habit of doing, is that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, of course, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you really want to see more, the subscribe button is right there. There's a bell icon that doesn't work, and I wish you all an amazing day. Bye bye.